Brumbarger. How are you doing today, Ron?
I'm well, thank you, Mark. Nice to meet you, Dr. J.
Yeah, Ron and I have gotten a chance to get to know each other a little bit over the last year or so, and it's been an honor to get to know a little bit of his story and all that. We'll obviously get to hear more about that here shortly. But for all of those that are tuning in live, thank you for being here, whether you're on YouTube or in the Zoom. Always glad to have folks with us. And if you have questions for Ron, you can drop those in the chat, whether or not they get answered while we're having the thing today, or maybe we'll send it to him later, whatever the case may be. Ron, I'm sure you'd love to answer people's questions, isn't that
Happy
right?
to.
Yeah.
Honored to do so, sure.
Yeah. So, Ron, tell us a little bit about how you got into being interested in mentoring, apprenticeship. Can you tell us a little bit of the difference? The mentor and apprenticeship, same thing in your eyes? Just how did you get here?
Sure. So I owned a technology company that we started building websites back in the Christmas 1993. So it gives you an idea of how long we were doing it. And we grew that to about 30 people. And in 2012, we found ourselves walking away from business. Just a few years prior, I decided that we needed some help trying to bleed off some of the more opportunities that were smaller than our firm could take on. We just needed bigger budgets. So we started a group within our technology firm called Bitwise. The company's name was Bitwise, called Bitwise Fellows, and it was exclusively high school students. And they managed, ran, had a president, project manager, sales team, designers, programmers, the whole thing. And they built and managed their own portfolio of business. I really enjoyed working with that group. We had 81 kids go through that program in 11 years. And then 2012, we were growing like crazy. The technology, the web development firm was growing like crazy. We walked away from a quarter of our revenue. We had to just pull back the proposal, retract the proposal, and say we can't do the work because we didn't have enough talent. Well, I grew frustrated by that and had enjoyed working with the high school team, Bitwise Fellows, and decided that if we were going to thrive and grow, we needed to grow our own talent. So I started a university. Now, I don't, in hindsight, recommend necessarily starting a university to solve your company's talent problems, but it worked out okay. And it helped us for a while at Bitwise, but I really fell in love with helping young adults kind of imagine where they might go career-wise and challenges they might undertake, and then helping equip and encourage them to advance such. So I sold Bitwise in 2018. And 5 years prior, I started Apprentice. So I was running both businesses for 5 years. I had hair prior to that. Uh, so when the opportunity came to focus just exclusively on Apprentice University, that became my focus. And so mentoring in that domain meant mano a mano with our students, helping them understand careers, making introductions for them, helping them grow, and encouraging them. I exited Apprentice University a year and a half ago in July 23, and I've been active in the mentoring world. I was at Taylor last semester, Taylor University, small private Christian school up the road here, liberal arts school, just up the road from Indianapolis. And so here we are in February, almost March, and I'm no longer in the educational space, although we'll see where that leads us. But to your question, Mark, the difference between mentoring and apprenticeships, let me just say, an apprenticeship without a mentor is a rotten paying job. Um, you really got to have somebody helping give you that guidance. You can have mentorships without apprenticeships, but you can't have it the other way around. So in our world, apprenticeships are defined as a stacked series of experiences, one building on the previous, that has a terminus of maybe 2.5 or 3 years that's interlaced with academics and challenges and networking and, of course, mentoring. So that is how we got here.
Amazing. I want to draw you guys' attention to, for those of you that are part of the 70 already, we have the resource room, which has a free resource from Ron that he provided. I'm going to share screen real quick just so we can take a look at this. um, that you can find in the community. So you can see here, mentoring with intentionality. So this is a link that you can go to, and you're obviously welcome to go look at this in depth later on. Not while we're talking. We don't want you to be distracted, but a lot of great stuff in here already. One of the things that, as I read through this, that came up for me was in our community, we talk a lot about discipleship. Excuse me. We already delineated mentoring and apprenticeship. What about mentoring and discipleship? How do you see? Is it the same? Is there differences? Should we be doing both or neither? Which I don't agree with, but let me know your thoughts.
Well, and I certainly am not the foremost expert on discipleship by any means. And there were a thing or two about mentorship. So probably not the foremost expert, but maybe I'm in the top 1,000. Um, my take from this is that discipleship is much more of a faith-focused journey alongside somebody that can help you stay accountable. Whereas mentoring is a different perspective. It's not necessarily faith focused, although mine have mostly been that way. But discipleship is much more about how do you create people to follow Jesus and how do you help them grow in their faith, whereas mentorship may or may not necessarily be coupled with faith.
Gotcha,
I've
gotcha.
mentored young adults that I'm pretty certain were not believers.
Right. Yeah, and there's some interesting, conversations to be had around that as a believer. Um, is everything we do leading people to Jesus or not? And then like, is that, are you being in this whole point around intentionality? Like there's mentoring with intentionality, and then there's discipling with intentionality. I've heard some people say that, mentoring, was trying to take the place of discipleship in some realm, maybe not on purpose, but any thoughts in regards to that? Like how some people might say that mentorship is discipleship light in some circles.
Well, the thought that crosses my mind, Mark, is I was having breakfast with a good friend this morning, and we're just talking for a minute, and my prayer for our friendship and for our work today was that uh, God would be visible through our thoughts, actions, and words, and that to me is as important in a mentorship relationship is that God is evident through your thoughts, actions, and words. And if the timing is right and the Holy Spirit's planted the seed and you have an opportunity to share your faith with somebody that may not be a believer, then do so. But I don't know that they're mutually exclusive. I think I get a little fatigued, maybe is a good way to phrase it, by some of the churchy words that are out there sometimes. Um, I think we can't separate ourselves uh, by our word choice necessarily and stay engaged in modern day society. Again, let your thoughts, actions, and words speak to your faith rather than your word choice. You don't hear anybody say we're gonna start a discipleship relationship. Okay, but that word's gonna raise a lot of eyebrows pretty quick. To let your thoughts, actions, and words lead the way.
Amen. Let's go with that. Um, the there's a lot of good stuff in this free download that you provided, and one of the pieces was pre-engagement planning. That sounds like a lot. What's that? What does that involve? And who's really responsible about when it comes to that?
Well, I think intentionality requires planning, obviously. Um, it's a bit of a kind of a prenup, maybe in some cases. But you're really trying to make sure that as a mentor, that the needs of the mentee, that you can fulfill them, right? That you actually have the capability and the experience set, the time and the patience necessary to mentor that young adult. Conversely, the mentee needs to be sure that the mentor has the experience and skills and knowledge to help guide them. And frankly, it's as much about the chemistry as anything. Do you have is there a conversation to be had there? You know, um, I I was giving a talk. Maybe this was helpful to your question, Mark. I was giving a talk. It was about a year ago in Southern Indiana. It was at I can't remember the time of day or the week, but it was at a small town church, small city church. I even forget the venue now, but anyway, and this kind of goes to the importance of the pre-mentoring relationship. And our English language is limited in word choice in certain categories. And I said, mentoring requires an intimate relationship. And man, you could see the carpet come off the floor by all the gasps in the room. Oh my gosh. All right, well, time out. There's a lot of uses for the word intimate. My buddy that I had coffee with this morning is an intimate friend, and we're both guys. We're not changing teams. We're not both hitting right-handed. So, but it really truly is the case. If you can't have uh, intimacy in that relationship, it's hard to mentor somebody. If they're constantly reserved and they're not willing to, you ask them, what are your top 2 or 3 goals? Well, I've got one. I'm going to kind of keep the other to myself. It's like, okay, I can't help you. And so candor plays into that. Candor and authenticity plays into that. So that's the criticality of that pre-engagement conversation. Just get together for coffee. Now, I believe that the best mentoring relationships, ones that I've experienced, the best mentoring relationships is when the mentee has the wherewithal and the foresight to say, hey, I'm usually Mr. B in most domains of students. Mr. B, would you mentor me? It's hard to say no to somebody that asks for that, but that means that you've gotten to know one another a little bit. You can discern whether or not that's a conversation. It is a relationship, whether or not that's the relationship that you want to get into. Now, in some evangelical circles, they need duct tape to pull their chin up because it's gasping so bad. I don't have a lot of patience for that. I think that's a bunch of baloney. There's nothing scriptural or unscriptural, nothing unscriptural about cross-gender mentoring. I think there's a great value in that for everybody involved. And to the extent we start filtering things like that, I think it's detrimental to everybody involved. And we end up in this kind of this legalistic quagmire. So that's the importance of the mentoring conversation and relationship up front. Typically you're going to be meeting at a coffee shop or having lunch or something like that. And if the other person's uncomfortable doing that, well, we got a problem. It's not going to work out. It's not going to be okay.
100%. The cross gender mentoring brought up a thought from uh, for some people that might be following what's going on with the cabinet of Trump administration. A Paula White, who's a women's minister, was put in the place of the being in charge of the office of faith. I think it's what it's called. And I started seeing people really like having a problem. Maybe part of it is theology, but a lot of it was like women are not supposed to be in charge. Essentially, that's kind of where that came from, I think. And there's a like kind of what you're talking about, like there's cross gender, but also like can you be mentored by a woman? If you're a man, biblically and all that. My wife's a pastor, so you could probably get an idea where I lay on that. But yeah, there's some hangups out there that we need to probably get over. Um, Very good. Oh,
Well,
yeah,
I
go
I
ahead.
just think, you gotta be smart,
Mm.
right? You gotta be smart. You can't be a fool. And mentoring relationships are meant for both parties to grow. And the best way to learn is to teach. And when one teaches, to learn. And I'm an insatiable learner. I'm curious about everything. And so therefore, the best way to learn anything is to teach it. And when one teaches, to learn. So I'm happy to teach, and I'll take an audience of whatever size I can get. But if it's someone of the opposite sex, or a young lady in this case, just use your head. Use your head.
Definitely. Good advice. So we'll get back to the document here just in a second. We'll kind of wrap up with that, but I do want to get your 2000 cubit rule story. So for those of us that have been a part of SheepFeast, you may have heard about the 2000 cubit rule. Read about it in Joshua 3. You'll understand more there, but it's really making space for God. When you didn't know which way to go, you went to God and he made a way for you. And so it's a bit of a testimony time. So what has been a 2000 cubit rule moment for you? It doesn't have to be recently, but just something that pops into your mind.
Wow. Um, I think it was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. Apprentice University was growing quickly, and I'm not one that really wants to sign on the dotted line for a big lease expense every month and uh, massive amounts of square footage. Yet we knew that we weren't going to be able to serve the volume of students we wanted to serve if we didn't take these things on. And it's a big step of faith. We stepped into a 12,000 square foot lease that clocked in about $9,000 a month, and it's a big deal. And God provided more students that fall. So uh, it's hard, when you're making those tough decisions as a business executive. It's hard sometimes, um, but you just got to trust that God's going to provide. And I would say similarly, last year about this time, I'd wrapped up my commitment to the new team at Apprentice University at the end of the year, and I'd spent some time in Europe with some speaking engagements, just touring a little bit. And I came back, and suddenly it's January, February, and I'm like, now what? I don't know where to turn, and so I got a new business off the ground, homegrown apprenticeships. The idea of helping communities start their own local organic apprenticeship program that serves their communities, rural America. Forget the battle rattle cities, forget Indianapolis and all the big cities. They've got all their programs and all the acronyms and alphabet soup people helping them. They don't need any more help. So I started that program and just got it off the ground last spring. And I got the notice, the request from Taylor to check out the job there, the entrepreneur in residence. And I wasn't looking. I wasn't heads down pursuing a job at the moment, but God threw that in my lap at the time to say, "Hey, check this out. What do you think?" So I don't know. I don't know if I have a crescendo moment, Mark. I thought about your question before we logged in here, and I don't know that I've had that
Well, I think it's a good
crescendo moment.
example of like you just keep moving forward, right? Uh, this is what the 2000 cubit rule is in relation to the people of Israel moving into their promised land, right? It's what God said, hey, this is where you're supposed to go set up shop. And, there's a lot of great business truths in that journey for themselves, but they were moving forward, but they were making space for God to show up, right? And so that's kind of the point, right? Like okay, what's next? And then the next thing shows up. God does his part when we do ours, right? So thanks for sharing those things for sure.
Yeah.
So Luke had a question we want to volley over to you, Ron. Who or what determine you're a mentor and based on what authority?
Well, the authority invested in me, Luke, of course. Um, I don't know that there's a line. I think when you find yourself in a mentoring position, you'll recognize. When I just had a conversation yesterday here in Indianapolis with a young lady that that I said, from what you just described to me, I think you would benefit from a mentor. And she said, I have somebody. I have a conversation. We meet weekly. I'm like, good, do that. I don't know her mentor at all. I don't know who she is, but I think anytime you're giving counsel and sharing experiences, you are qualified as a mentor. Now, we've all mentored and we've been mentored at small levels and big levels. Um, the whole point of the document that I wrote is do it with intentionality, do it with purpose. We've all been mentored and we've mentored others, but do it with purpose. And it gets easier as you go on. But I don't know, Luke, that there's a certification out there to do that.
Yeah, it's
If I
great.
can just jump on it, it's more about the spiritual side. Like, depending the community, to be a mentor, you need some certification, and some other, you have other extreme. Everybody can be a mentor, if even they are not ready, and it can be damageable for a lot of people. So what can be the right balance, the fine tuning, where according to God, you are ready, like you said before, the prerequisites. So if you want to go, because there's an intimacy that is created at the moment you start to mentor someone, you establish this moment, and what can determine what can be the sign for God, where you become the right person for the right, how do you say, mentee, the person you mentor, and is there a signs? If there's, I don't know, it's that's why I say based on what authority. For me, it's always the Samuel spirits. Samuel determined, okay, David, that's the guy. Doesn't look like, but because I know that you are called to be the king, I anoint you for this, not because you look like, but because you are called to. And so that's the question behind, like, what can be the signs to determine if you are the right person for the right job.
Yeah, that's a great question,
Makes
Luke.
sense.
Thank you. I think one of the things that comes to my mind is that you could very well yet today, before the sun goes down, cross paths with someone that says, I need your advice, I need your counsel. And that's just a one-off kind of thing. If they come back tomorrow and say, hey, I took your advice and I learned from it and I did this, can we explore this more? You are thus a mentor. And that might be for 48 hours, or it might be for 48 years, who knows? But I don't, so there, like I said, there's little mentoring and there's big mentoring. Um, there's more structured, programmatic, methodical process mentoring. Is kind of what's outlined in this document that I shared. And then there's just more ad hoc that just occurs without direction. And all the above are great. There's not really any threshold that says, okay, you are thus a certified mentor. Now, let me add to that, by the way, that the last thing you would want to do as a mentor is get connected with the reluctant mentee. That's a lot like pushing water up a mountain with a rake, and it's a really bad assignment. So that's when you'll know not to engage as a mentoring relationship. When the mentee is reluctant and you find yourself thinking, why are we here? Why are you asking me for help when it seems like every time we talk, you've gone contrary to what we discussed? So, yeah, pushing water up a mountain with a rake is a bad proposition.
Sounds like no fun as far as I'm concerned. Want to go back to the document and just highlight some of the headlines here so that you guys know what's in here. Mentioned the Christian context. He talks about that here. Also, the cross-gender gender mentoring, the core values. We talked a little bit more in depth about pre-engagement planning, and he has some cool stats here. That was one of the things. Like, I don't know if you have a stat, but how many people have actually been mentored intentionally? That would be an interesting thing to know. But goes more into the journey here, it's some best practices, and using a design thinking approach to iterative growth. That sounds fancy. So you can look at that. And then session elements, winding up with the relationship. And then, of course, it concludes everything. Anything else in this document you wanted to pull out specifically before we kind of wrap up this part of the Corral Call?
Well, the last half of this is a deep dive. And I really want you to appreciate the picture that heads up that section, because I really worked hard to find that photo. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go, deep dive. See, that is the extent of my artistic flair. The reason I bring this up is because all the above is the mechanical side of how to construct a mentoring relationship. But this material is great fuel for that relationship. There's a few case studies in here, some really good articles, a couple books, some FAQs, and anybody entering into a relationship like this, I suggest should read through this material. So it's carefully curated material that hopefully is helpful to both mentor and mentee.
Yeah, that's great. I probably did see the deep dive or deeper dive, and I forgot about it. So don't forget about the deeper dive, folks. Keep scrolling. There's even more great value there. And we want to make sure you know that you can get to this by going to the 70. And for those that might be watching this, either a later date, the 70 is free to join. You can come in there and be a part of it. We got the resource room where we'll have other free resources in the future, and you can get that link to that document that Ron so generously provided. Super appreciative of that. So yeah, there's the 70, folks, and that was Ron. Ron, anything else that you wanted to share, or Jay, did you have any follow-up questions as well that popped into your heart?
Just a comment. Thoroughly enjoyed everything that you shared, Ron. I'm an avid learner, and I love all the resources that you've provided, and that's what we seek to do here at SheepFeast, is just be facilitators of God's goodness and helping people to become better disciples and to start their discipleship journey for those who are new to their walk with Christ, or however that looks like, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're just somebody that has a career. We're here for people to grow and to love on them. And I just thank you so much for everything that you've shared. And I can't wait to go into that deeper dive, because I'm a nerd for information and knowledge. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you again.
Good stuff.
Sure. I would add one last tip, Mark, and that is, generally speaking, we think of mentor as older than the mentee. That's not always necessary, but that's more common than not. But as a mentor, I will tell you that mentoring young adults, keeps you young, keeps you youthful. They're bringing challenges at you that you might not otherwise even know were in existence if you didn't have another set of eyes on the world. So I think it's a valuable thing to do. And, when I'm laying there on my deathbed, I want somebody that I trust to be helping me out, somebody maybe I've mentored that appreciates the values and things that I've helped instill, instead of some harsh knucklehead. So anyway, but it's really up to both parties to make it fun. I would leave it there. It's the first comment. It's one of the early comments in that little booklet. It's up to both parties to make it fun. And mentees, don't be shy to ask for help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Asking for help. That can be tough for some people. Yeah, but thanks so much, Ron, for giving us some of your expertise and insights on this. It's super grateful for being able to get to know you over the last year or so, and always welcome to be a part of the 70.
Thank you.
And that. So everybody, make sure you take advantage of that resource. It's really cool. A lot of good stuff there, obviously. In regards to checking in on the 70, wanted to bring attention to a few other things while we're still here together. we did create a welcome channel and Dr. J brought this up and was like, oh yeah, we definitely need to have that. So as you can see, these are all the folks that came in February, and this pretty much, I think we just really launched it in January. So we're glad for all the folks. So if you get a chance to welcome the people, that'd be great as well. Annabelle is a new member, and I'm just going to comment right now that shout out her for being a part of the 70 as well. She's actually helping one of our co-laborers, which is exciting, the COVA Christian Chamber of Commerce. And so we'll be getting to know Annabelle and those folks better as we work together. Another thing I want to bring to your attention was, I believe it does stick it in the announcements. Yes, the Good Things Nigeria. If you might have seen a little bit here and there, this is really new, right, Jay?
Yes.
Tell us how this came about just a couple days ago.
Sure. So I was spending time in prayer, as I often do, and I love my prayer time with the Lord, and I pray about a great many things. And so what came to me was literally the country of Nigeria, because we have different entrepreneurs and other individuals that actually assist us here at SheepFeast from that particular country. And as some of you may be aware, in the past, that country has been known for what Nigerian print scam or something like that. And so, as I was thinking and praying about these things, I was thinking to myself, man, I understand if the world puts a label on a person or a company or a country. I understand that. But we as Christians, I said, Lord, is that what we should be doing? And the Lord spoke to me so clearly. And he said, can anything good come out of Nigeria? And my mind immediately went to the reference uh, about Jesus and about what was said. I think Nathaniel said it when they were asking him, like, come and see this man called Jesus. And he says, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? And Jesus, our Lord and Savior, came from a place that wasn't respected, probably had a lot of labels on it. And it just spoke to me so clearly that we as Christians, we have to think about the things that are good, honest, true, and uplift those things. And so, in short, the answer is yes. A lot of great things come from Nigeria, come out of Nigeria. So I just wanted to share that briefly. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't mean that video to immediately start playing, but yeah, you can go in there and look at this. We put this together real quick because we really feel that the Lord has brought us to Nigeria in some fashion to help in different ways. And this is really kind of an advocacy thing to, let's get good things out there. And you guys can go in and look at this.
Nigeria. Does that seem sound familiar?
So you can watch that little video. It's just a little bit of a promo talking about, yeah, there's good things to report on in Nigeria and many other parts of the world. We'll look at those things probably in the future. Just talking about anythinggood.org is the website that we put out. And part of our effort here is to create scholarship opportunities for folks that are in Nigeria or other developing countries and really help them be a mentor to them, disciple them in different ways as they're pursuing the thing that God's put in their heart. And it's our honor to meet folks like Jonathan and Godwin here on the call and others that have a heart to see God's purposes outworked wherever they are and wherever their assignment is. And so check that out when you have some time. There's lots of channels now that we keep adding things as we just pray into what God wants to do through the 70. But yeah, if you have a business idea or something, want to make sure people know, they can drop that in the Pitch It channel. We want to hear about what God's doing through you. If you have an encouraging word, put it in Barnabas Briefs. The Furnace, we want to make sure you see Dr. J's got some great information, some tips and tricks on, how to run your business well. He's got a lot of great experience. So he's dropping gold nuggets in here all the time. So make sure you check that out as well. And some of the other things in here, just draw your attention to the 12. So we have the 70. The 12 is that group of people that are a little bit closer in to the center of what we're doing. And those are our co-laborers, like I mentioned earlier, the Christian Chamber and others that we'll be working more directly one-on-one with. And so that's what those channels are for. And there's some other lock channels, ambassadors, evangelists. Brian, you talked about being an entrepreneur in residence. We actually have those type of opportunities for people as well. Isn't that right, Dr. J?
That is right. I will briefly say about those. We are always looking for volunteers. You have marketing background, we want to talk to you. You have experience in business and you want to make a greater impact, and you feel God is calling you to something, but you don't know what it is, or maybe you do know what it is. We want to talk to you. If you have a great sales background, you love talking to people, influencing people, we want to talk to you. We just want to be facilitators and amplify what God is using you to do in your life. It's not about SheepFeast at all, but it's all about what God seeks to do in and through you. And we just want to help in whatever way God chooses to do that in your life. We want to be, again, facilitators to help amplify that.
Amen and amen. And just another quick reminder about events. Of course, every week we're going to be here with the Corral Call, and occasionally we'll have awesome folks like Ron dropping in on us. We do have coming up next month. It's getting closer and closer. The Rooted Network will be here to have a panel about discipleship specifically and what that might look like. They produce a lot of great material for churches, and I would definitely recommend checking out what they're doing. It's a unique model for discipleship that they are implementing. Awesome. Any last minute thoughts or questions or interjections, complaints that anybody might have before we wrap up our time today? I think we're pretty good to go, it looks like. I really appreciate everybody being here today. Once again, Ron, shout out for being with us. Enjoyed that thoroughly. And of course, it's going to be available on YouTube. So if somebody's like, oh, I missed a piece of that or whatever, go check that out. And Ron's going to be part of our very first podcast, the 2000 Qubit Rule, because that's one reason that we talked a little bit about that. So we'll have those episodes coming out in the future as well. All right, folks. Really appreciate your time hanging out with us. Ron, have a great week.
Thank you.
Godwin, Doug, everybody.